Oh, hello. Hi there. Welcome to the Haven team. Hi there. Woohoo. Really? How's my audio? Is there a chat where we can see the oh it's oh wow. Oh, yeah, there's some delay. My audio is working. Yeah. Yeah. I'll turn that off. Off. So your whole story is now off. So your whole story is now problems, and we will fix it. Mhm. Two. Oh, maybe you have to reboot. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Do, 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 do. I think it's still jammed. Yeah. Do, 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 do. I think it's still jammed. Great start. Yeah. Do, 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 do.
What about now?
Do, 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 do.
There we go.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Man,
Whoop,
OBS is
whoop.
complicated when you try to do multiple audio tracks. All right, so we'll start again. Luckily, I didn't get anywhere. Audio levels look fine, more or less. Just let me know if Rob is louder than I am. Cool. So, the announcement that we have is nothing too dramatic. We're not getting bought out by Autodesk or anything like that. What we're going to do is we're going to merge HDRI Haven, Texture Haven, and 3D Model Haven into one website called Polyhaven. And this is going to take place next year, February or so is when the new site will launch. And the reason that we're doing this merge is because currently all three websites they operate completely independently, where we get all of the income from the HDRI Patreon, and that is spent completely on HDRIs and on Texture Haven. Rob gets all the income from Texture Haven, and he spends that himself on textures, and Model Haven as well. It's completely separate. And this was initially intentional, but it's become apparent that we're getting more funding for HDRIs than we can spend effectively on just HDRIs alone. So it would really benefit the industry as a whole, and the visual effects and video game design, animation industry, if we can divert some of the HDRI funds into Texture Haven and Model Haven. And rather than just doing that and sharing funding, it makes a lot more sense for us to just combine the three websites together into one business, and that'll just make it easier for us to assign where we think the funds should go. Now, of course, we still care a lot about what you guys want. If you want more HDRIs and textures than models, then of course we're going to listen to you. We're still going to have our Trello boards and our weekly hangouts and everything like that, and you're gonna be able to tell us how you think we should be spending our funds. But yeah, basically starting from next year, we're going to be treating it more as a traditional business type of thing, which sounds lame and suspicious, but it's going to help us a lot to produce the best content that we can. Our ultimate goal,
content.
Yeah, a lot more.
Yeah.
Our ultimate goal is to become a non-profit company. It's going to take a few years for us to get over some bureaucratic hurdles in order to get there. But until then, we're still going to treat it as a nonprofit company. We're going to have all of our finances public as we do now, so that you can make sure we're using your donations in the way that you want. And we're not just putting it in our pockets. Hopefully by now you guys trust what we're doing and you like the assets we create. And it's been super helpful to have feedback from all of our patrons on what we should be doing. So yeah, on the surface, not a lot is changing. Our mission remains the same. We're creating free public domain CC0 high quality assets for the 3D industry in general. And all of our operations are going to be transparent, and you can help us figure out what to do. Yeah, that's the announcement. If anybody's got any questions, they can...
Well, nobody is complaining, so I think we're good to go.
Not yet. They're probably busy typing out furious long messages in the chat. But
they're firing all questions. But feel free to ask anything you want to us.
Yeah, I'm going to be reading the chat. If you got any questions about details, then we can answer them. That's why we're doing this as a stream and not just a video or an announcement post or something like that. I'm still going to have a post on Patreon just now for the people who missed the stream. But yeah. Let me stick this over here. All right. So while you're typing your essays of questions, as I'm sure you are, I think
YouTube.
Yeah? No? Okay. Yeah, so right now we've been publishing for the last several months. We're publishing 7 HDRIs every month, and we have 420 right now. Yeah. And by the end of this year, we're going to have just about 450 HDRIs. And we're getting to the point where we have so many available that it's becoming a bit less efficient to just keep pumping out HDRIs at the same rate as we are now with all of the funding that we're getting. So it makes a lot more sense for us to cut back on the number of HDRIs we're publishing regularly and focus more on the publishing specific HDRIs that you guys want, not just a bunch of random things that we think is cool, but focusing on your feedback and being more specific about what we shoot and what we publish, focusing on quality over quantity, I guess. And then that will free up some funding to use for textures and HDRIs. Sorry, textures and models. So.
Yeah. What to say?
Yeah, so Lumois Arts, if I'm pronouncing that right, says, I feel that slowing down on HDRI numbers and focus on getting good places. Yeah, that's basically the goal. We're gonna take a step back. Well, I have already taken a step back, and I've thought what we're doing is great, but how we should improve is by focusing on more specific things that are missing in our library, like studio HDRIs that people want, or nighttime shots, things that are more valuable, more difficult to get. But yeah, the total funding for HDRIs in general is actually going to be quite similar to before, even though we're taking almost half as many HDRIs every month, going from 7 to 4. So that'll give us a bit of budget to shoot better stuff. And yeah.
Maybe it's also good to mention that we like to combine the content into more into scenes, so it gets a bit more personal. So it's not just sharing files like textures and scans and whatever. We want to have a bigger picture, so users can see the content and how it looks like in a scene, and learn from it. So we maybe also want to do something with online teaching. So it's not just a platform where we drop the free content, because we think what we do works good, but we can get way more out of it and getting more in contact with the community, and using our designer skills to learn how to work with it. So you maybe think from some assets like, what can I do with it? We can teach you. We can show you how that works. And I think that's a great way to go.
Yeah. So
to show
our plan, by merging the sites together and with the combined income that we get, we can now afford to hire full-time artists to work on content for both Model Haven and Texture Haven. For HDRI Haven, we're going to continue with what we're doing now by hiring contractors, Sergey and Andreas, to work on the content like that. But for the models and the textures, we have some artists that we're going to hire full-time to work on it. And how they're going to do it is they're going to come up with a concept, like a theme or a concept for a render, a final render, and then they're going to work on assets for that render or under that theme, so that all of the content that they create will be kind of related to each other, so that it doesn't just feel like we're dumping a whole bunch of random assets on the website that don't really work well together and are not as useful in a scene where everything is in a slightly different style, but rather by working in a collection of assets, things can more
maybe
relate.
If people know Megascans, it's pretty the same. Like you have all 3D assets or scans, and they have these scenes where you can click on it and you can see all the assets that were used, and then you can download the scene or all separated assets. Then you get way more in connection with objects and know how to use them. So from some assets you think, well, what can I do with it? Well, this is a new way of merging with your objects.
And then, as Rob mentioned, something else that we want to explore is doing video training about using our assets or creating our assets as well, which is something that I think is quite valuable. We can't even think about competing on the scale with Megascans. They're supported by such an enormous company and they have so many assets, but we feel like if we can create training that explains how to use our assets more effectively, then we can be just as helpful in a way. Or, it's more helpful to have a small collection of really good assets that you can keep coming back to and reusing and adapting to your needs. And of course, the giant library is great too. We're going to keep publishing new assets constantly as we are now. So Marco asked me, are you doing proper gamut mapping on the last HDRIs you create? Troy Sabotka pointed out in a tweet that some of your HDRIs aren't properly color managed. And that's a good question. Currently, my color management knowledge is pretty limited. I'm trying to research into it, but I'm kind of busy with a whole bunch of other things. And it's something that I need to learn a lot as well. But it's exactly the kind of thing where I want to start improving. So I mentioned we're cutting back on the number of HDRIs we're publishing and focusing more on the quality. And that's not just in terms of exactly where the HDRI was taken or what type of HDRI it is, but also the technical quality in terms of getting things correct in terms of color management and calibration and things like that. So that's something we need to explore. It's something I need to learn, and I could certainly use some help with it. Is there a plan?
Yeah, keep improving.
Yeah, improving is always important. In this industry, everything changes so quickly. Brent asks as a follow-up on that, I presume to Marco's question, is there a plan to move to an ACS color pipe for HDRIs? And there is no plan, but if you would like to propose one, I am all ears. The thing that I have to keep in mind is to make sure that everything is as easily usable as possible, so that when people download an HDRI and they put it into Blender, it just works. They don't have to try and research, okay, what color profile is this? What do I need to set inside Blender to make it look correct? Why is the sky pink? That sort of thing. It's got to be as easy as possible. And the reality is that a lot of artists don't particularly care about the technical details like that. Currently, they more just want something to look pretty, but I think the industry is getting more, they're starting to care more about that sort of thing. So we should definitely focus on improving in that way too. Ark asks, will you be hiring more people to help creating? Yep. So I mentioned we're going to be hiring 2 full-time artists to work on 3D models and textures as well. Mostly 3D models, and then textures coming from whatever is needed for those 3D models and the scenes that they're creating. I'm also going to be hiring an administrator to take care of some of the work that I currently do, some of the bureaucratic work that's required when running an actual business. But they're also going to help me figure out what we should be doing. So we're going to keep doing the weekly hangouts on Patreon, as I have been doing. And we're going to get our 2 artists to join in on that sometimes. Yeah, that's mainly for patrons, but sometimes we can open that up to the public as well if people like it. But yeah. All right, so also, this merge is not just going to help us in terms of like making our administration lives easier or helping us create content that lives more, that is more themed together. It's also going to help you guys, or benefit you guys in a way, because now we have a single website where everything is available, which means we'll have a single Patreon page, which means if you're supporting us on, say, the offline access Google Drive tier or whatever, now you're going to get access to all the different types of content we have available, all the HDRIs and the textures and the models, all in one go. And when we launch next year, I think we are going to increase the price of those tiers slightly, just to match the value of the content inside the folders. But all the current existing patrons can, of course, just carry on supporting us. We're at the current level that they're paying. Our business is not to create a paywall or anything like that. Our business is just to create assets and let people support us. So we're not going to
as long as we can pay the bills. Yeah, that's the great thing. And hire artists for more content, and we just want to grow. We put a lot of love and time in it. I'm using it for my work as well, so I have benefits from it. But that's the whole idea. We created this because we think we want to share the free content to people, and the more people who can work on it, the better. So we try to invest everything in the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So most of our like running costs, expenses for servers and things are relatively small, which means all of our income gets paid towards people producing assets. So the more that we earn, the more we can afford to hire new people to work on more specific things, or contractors to work on something really specific like plant life or something that would be really valuable like that, trees and flowers and things, or go and shoot an HDRI in some remote place that we can't get to. Yeah. Ark is asking if there will be characters and rigs with controls for animators. I think that would be super cool. I know there are a lot of like character rigs available on the internet to use to practice animation. I'm not an animator myself, so I'm not entirely sure exactly what's available, but it'd be really cool to have a proper public domain CC0 character for people to use for whatever they like. The artists that we're hiring, some of them are specifically character artists, although they can be generalist as well and work on props and textures. So we're probably going to have characters in the future, for sure. And
Yeah,
Rig
and
character would be
these
great too.
people are really skilled. They create beautiful characters, but I think they also are very good in the modeling work. So
Yeah.
definitely great skills are joining the Texture Haven platform. I'm
Yeah.
really amazed by what is coming in. So expect some firework.
Yeah, so we're going to be working, we're starting to work full time in November, and then we're going to work on some initial content for the website so that, and at the same time as our artists are working on the content, I'm going to be working on the website itself, making it so that all three types of assets can live together on the same site. And then we'll launch the site in February or March next year, along with all of the new content that they've created. So, but until then, we're just going to keep doing what we're currently doing now. And yeah, next year you'll see a whole bunch of new stuff appearing. Marco is asking, Rob, what
Yeah, I was typing, but it's
would
from
you
all the
like to
places.
know which places in the world you have been to create such awesome textures? Do you want to
Yeah,
tell them
well,
about Norway?
I'm no, I'm not going to talk about Norway. But yeah, the most recent scans are from Norway. And it was the first time I used my drone for the aerial scans. I'm slowly trying to yeah, put these on the platform and find out the reactions if people like it. And because they go very well, a lot of downloads, I'm going to put more time on it. But Norway was great, but most of them are from Belgium. I've been to Italy, Puglia for all these sandstone scans. And in the Netherlands, we have great old buildings for the cobblestone and all the bricks. So now we have the lockdown. I will focus more on the Netherlands because I can't go anywhere now. I tried, but all the borders are closed. So from November, it will be back to bricks and cobblestone and plaster. But definitely worth to use it, and
Yeah.
maybe go back to making some tutorials and showing you how to work with it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I can't wait to start traveling more. It's been too long for me. But yeah, it would be great now that once we're starting like a little studio, we can, as a studio, take trips to certain places to shoot both HDRIs and textures and like do scanning for models or just shoot reference from models and things, all from the same location.
Yeah,
And then everything will
yeah.
kind of live together, which I think will work really well. Um, Brotherboard is asking, do you have any plans to diversify the contents on your sites? 3D Model Haven has 3 chandeliers, for example. Nothing like rocks, trees, and plants, which have more diverse use case. So yeah, for sure. Currently the way 3D Model Haven works is that we either approach an artist and say, can I buy this asset from you so that I can publish on 3D Model Haven? Or people will donate assets to us, just whatever they've been working on. Which means everything is kind of random and not, they don't follow the same theme or anything like that, and it's not necessarily something that's useful. It's just something that people have been working on or that looks cool. But once we start the studio in November, we can focus more on what do people really want. Like what is a good use of our time? What we should be working on, rocks and trees and plants and all that type of asset that people are really interested in. So that's one of the main reasons we're doing this, is to give us more control over what we create. Ever thought of making extra paid content? Of course. That's how HDR Haven started, and that's where we're moving away from. So our goal with the Havens is to create free content for the industry, open source content that can be used for any purpose, without requiring any kind of payment or paywall or subscription or anything like that. It doesn't matter if you support us on Patreon, everybody has access to the content for free on our website. We're never going to make paid assets or premium versions of anything, and that's really important for us. That's the whole point of this thing. we do currently do something like a semi-exclusive period where at a certain tier on Patreon, people will get an HDRI 6 months before it goes public on the website. That's about the extent that I'm willing to make paid content, just as like a temporary early access type of deal. But yeah, we're never going to be selling assets or anything like that. We'll still have to talk about the training. Rob and I, we haven't thought specifically about how that's going to work, if we're just going to dump everything on YouTube, or if we're going to make it for patrons only, or if we're going to make it like temporarily for patrons and then go public, or if Rob's going to just focus on his Udemy stuff and make paid courses. We'll have to.
Oh yeah, well, I made some tutorials, especially for the Texture Haven platform, to show how to use specific texture scans, and these were quite popular, but I didn't really have time to go into that because I had to design the scenes and talk about it, so it was very time consuming, but I get a lot of response from it. And also on ArtStation, there are a lot of people who are creating these scenes and showing them to the world. So I think it's definitely worth spending more time on this. And for my Udemy, I'm sending all the people to the Texture Haven platform to use the textures. So I always hope and ask them to become a patron. It doesn't matter on which platform, so we can grow the community, so we can get bigger. Also for my new courses, I will keep doing that. So that's my business, but the Texture Haven or the new platform will fully be free. Also, the video content will all be free, because we want to build something. So that's completely separated from each other. But yeah, I teach people to use the ZZ0 content, and that it is possible to create anything you want, even with the small amount of available assets. It's still possible to create everything. All the scenes on my ArtStation are almost all created by the Texture Haven platform, and not everyone think that's possible, but you don't need this library of thousands of textures to do that. Also by blending things, and that's something what I like to learn or teach the people. You can create beautiful things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need 1,000 different types of paint to paint a cool painting. You just need a couple colors
Exactly.
and then mix them together.
With just a couple of colors you blend, and that's the magic.
That's a pretty good metaphor, actually.
Yeah.
So, German is asking, is it possible to upload a 3D model? Currently, yes. And how does it work? Let me find the page and just show you. So it is, whoops. We do currently on Model Haven anyway, 3D Model Haven, we do currently allow people to contribute to our library. I don't really have a lot of time to review things. I've been struggling to keep up with what people are sending me already, even since like a month ago. But if you go to the About page and scroll down a bit, you can see you can donate your own 3D model. And you can read this whole giant paragraph of instructions here. So if you're going to think about doing something like that, it's extremely important that you understand that we're publishing it as public domain, which means it has to be your own original work, including everything that's involved with it, like the textures that you used. We can't publish anything that's copyrighted or licensed in a way that's not public domain. So even if it's CC BY or one of the Creative Commons license, we can't really use that because we're going to be publishing it as public domain without copyright at all. So that's one aspect, and the other aspect is that our primary goal is publishing high quality assets for free. So we have an extremely high standard of the assets that we accept. So I guess don't send me low quality assets.
We don't want to be the new BlendSwap.
Yeah, right.
That's
so
like,
if you want to share your assets with people, first place to put it would be BlendSwap, and that's a good way to start because you get an idea of what what it takes to create an asset that is usable by other people. Because the thing that you've made in Blender, you want it to be easy for other people to use, so that they can just import it, and it's not going to give them any issues. It's going to be scaled correctly. The textures are not going to be overly high resolution, or doesn't have holes in the geometry. Your meshes are named properly, and all sorts of things like that. So I would recommend starting to post your own work on BlendSwap, and then if people like what you do, then you can send it to us as well, and we can publish it too. Yeah, I just don't want to create for myself unnecessary review work. I'm busy enough as it is, but we of course appreciate if you want to give us your work and donate your time. That's great. All right, we've been going for 30 minutes.
That's it.
I don't have anything else to say, I think.
No more questions.
Any final questions from anybody? But yeah, if anybody joined halfway through and missed the announcement, I'm going to be posting a proper post on Patreon that explains everything. It's going to be a giant wall of text, but that's kind of how it goes. But just a summary, we're combining the HDRI Haven, Texture Haven, and Model Haven together, and that's going to become one brand. A lot of people, I did a survey a couple weeks ago for the HDRI patrons, and I asked them, like, are you aware that the 3 different Haven websites are completely separate and they don't share any funding? And to my surprise, about half of the people didn't even know. They just assumed that we were like the same website, because the design of the websites are the same and they all link with each other. They all have the Patreon page, and I'm involved in all of them. So
we are linked to each other.
Yeah,
but
so
not.
A lot of people just assumed it was like one organization, but currently it's not. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be combining them together. Yeah.
It was like when we started, it was like a pilot. So and like I created textures and you were creating HDRIs. So we are doing our own thing. But now I think after 2 years, we showed everyone we can do this solid every time, every month. So we were able to do it. And I think this is a logical next step to merge it and go full power to the next level.
Yeah.
Because I believe in it.
The only thing that I really want to avoid is making it seem like we're some big giant corporation, which is not true at all. It's just a couple of people working on it. And I feel like if people see us as a giant corporation, they may be less inclined to like what we do enough to support us, which may become an issue in the future when we merge together. So that's why we're going to keep in contact with the Hangouts and make sure everything is...
Well, the maybe interesting to say is because everything is CC0, it doesn't make any sense that people get scared. Because someone can download all the content and start his own platform. That's a great thing. I mean, we're putting everything for free on the website. So in fact, you are the owner as well. It's not our content. You don't even need to name our platform. I'm getting so many emails like, should I mention your name? Or and I always have to say, well, no, it's CC0. In fact, you are the same. You have the same rights as I have. Yeah. So if there is a big player, I cannot imagine that we are an interesting platform for them, but we are finding it an interesting platform because we want to share. Same as Blender. Why is Blender there? Because there wasn't a free program. Getting in contact with artists who didn't have a lot of money, started small, and now they are bigger, but we are a completely different format. We're not like Blender. Blender is sort of a product, but we are just open. Everything is there, and so don't get scared at all. Just try to help us in making our dream possible, because that is getting all this free content to the users who do not have the money from the big platforms.
Yeah.
And we want to offer this high quality for everyone there in the world. We started somewhere, and we were happy that there was some free stuff out there, and now we're doing the same. So there's nothing behind it. We just want
Yeah.
to do this, and I feel good with it. After
We're
these 2 years I work on it, I love it.
yeah.
I will keep doing it.
We're not trying to compete with anybody, or we're not trying to be the biggest platform with the best textures or anything like that. We're just sharing with the stuff that we create, and if you guys can support us and help us grow and make more content, then that's awesome.
I receive emails from people who say, "Wood, are you trying to are you to beat?" And I say, "What? I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just sharing my tool set,
Yeah.
and I love to do that. I mean, no." So that's where we stand, or where I stand.
Yeah. So Brotherhood is asking, would it be helpful to have the link for people to donate their 3D models directly on or more prominently, I guess, on the Model Haven website so that it's easier for people to submit their work? Yeah, of course. That would make it easier for people to submit their work. It's just that it's a balancing act by not giving ourselves too much work. I don't want to spend my whole day looking at people's assets and renders and things and saying, yes, this is good, no, this is bad, yes, this is good, and reviewing it. And then if it's good enough, then it takes me a while to be able to upload it onto the website and make sure the formatting is correct and that sort of thing. So there's a balancing act between allowing people to contribute and not creating a lot of work for myself. We definitely don't want to just open up the website for people to submit assets immediately and have them available online like BlendSwap, because that invites lower quality assets. We need to have
Yeah, but even the Blender market has this sort of you cannot put anything on Blender market by just uploading it, and still there is a lot of low quality content on the Blender market, and we want to avoid that. So we are looking at it. We take a look at it. Are you waiting for this type of content? And because we're working in the field, we have a sort of idea if it's necessary, and then we're sharing that. And that's sorry, we may be not going very fast with uploading content, but things that are on the platform, we believe that's solid content, and we will keep doing that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the internet is a huge place. There's a lot of people uploading stuff, and that's amazing. That's what I love about the internet. But that means we have to focus on quality over quantity, which is slower. We're not going to be releasing amazing stuff every single day. It takes time to
increase
quality. And there's no reason to be in a hurry, because we're not trying to compete with anybody. We're just sharing our work. And if other people want to share their work, that's cool. There's just consequences to providing a very easy way for people to contribute or attempt to get their work approved. Anyway, it's something I need to look into, and as we move into a more studio environment, I could possibly delegate that kind of review work to somebody else, so that then we can make it easier for people to contribute, and that I think would be helpful, because there's a lot of really good artists there who want to share their assets with the world. We should definitely look into catering to that. Mark was asking if there's any preview of the new website. Nope, haven't started working on it. It's going to look pretty similar to the current websites. I have improved as a web developer over the years, I hope. So we'll see if things are slightly better than before. Obviously, it will need to be able to work with all three different types of assets in one go. Other than that, I think it will look pretty similar. Nicholas is asking, will you create a new Patreon account, or can you merge them? I don't think you can merge them. I can probably do some more research. We might be able to contact Patreon and see if there's a way to do that. I know there are a lot of shared patrons between the three sites. For Model Haven, like about half of the patrons of Model Haven are also patrons of Texture Haven. And I think it was about a third of the patrons of Texture Haven are also patrons of HDRI Haven. So there's a lot of overlap between the communities. So merging might be a good idea. Otherwise, what we'll do, I'm thinking I might just rename the HDRI patron to Polyhaven, and then Texture Haven and Model Haven will just become kind of inactive, where the existing patrons can still continue to support us through those accounts if they want to, or they can switch over themselves. But we'll figure that out when the time comes. It's not exactly a big hurdle. All right. Yeah.
All right.
That's it. Exciting times ahead. It's going to take us a while to get there. But as a whole, we're going to keep growing and keep doing what we're doing now.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well,
With a lot of fun.
we might as well end it there. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Yeah, I'll see you next time.
And see you next time. These streams might become a regular thing. You let us know.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
find out.
Well, no problem with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
And